weird. Together again. No one's
Together
puking.
at last.
No one's vomiting.
Together forever.
We have a minute to do things at the same time.
Barely.
It's not 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, barely had time to do this because we're busy ladies and it's a busy time of year, but we're here. And we're on we're on 42. How is that even a thing?
I know. And my baby graduated kindergarten.
She
yesterday.
did. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
And I cried.
You did cry.
I cried. I unabashedly cried. I told her I brought tissues because I knew I would.
Yeah. And she was Ruby's the sweetest soul. She has a sweet soul. That's the only way I can describe her. She's got the sweetest little soul. She's just sensitive and like you can tell she's empathic and she's just such a sweet girl.
She is. Well, I have a story that stems from that.
Mm.
So, yesterday when I got home from work, it was really hot. I left all the windows down in my car, pulled it into the garage, and we don't have like a real garage. It's just like a shanty.
Right.
With a dirt floor. And it doesn't have doors anymore. We just pull our car and it keeps the snow off.
It's a covering.
Basically, yes. It's fine because I don't have to brush my car off. It's great. But, so it's not, it's like a lean-to, it's open in the front, basically. And when my husband got home earlier than I thought he would, so we ended up just riding with him, and I totally forgot I left my windows down in my car. So I go to work today, and there's stuff all over my car, and I'm like, is that bird poop? I'm like, looks like mud. Then I look closer, and I can see little paw prints. There's a freaking raccoon in my car.
No!
In my car.
No!
Yes.
It was in there then?
It wasn't in there then.
But there was raccoon prints.
Yes, and he was mud all over my seats. He found a sucker in the back, and then there were sticky paw prints all over the back of my car.
He was a sucker!
Yes, and he went through any of the because, I'm not the best about cleaning my car. There's, like, some trash in there. Like, my to-go containers from, like, when I ate lunch, which don't have anything in them, but they have the remnants of the scent.
Trash pandas love that.
Yes, and so, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a raccoon, because...
Yeah, raccoons would do that.
He made a huge mess in my friggin' car.
That's
There's dirt everywhere.
Hysterical.
Yes, all over the dash, all the window frames in the car covered with mud. The outside where he hoisted his dirt into the car, covered with mud, covered with footprints. In the back, on the back seats, on the seats, on the backs of the seats, in the back of the car.
He was living his best life.
He found a couple of suckers because there was wrappers and chewed up sticks and sticky. There's
he probably was holding it with his paw.
Don't think he's cute.
Oh, he's cute.
And I'm like, if I'm not laughing, I'm crying. I'm like, I gotta go to work. I don't have time to deal with this shit. So there was a towel in my car and I just wiped the seat off and I ran in
That's what you gotta do.
and I'm like, after I got done work, I was like wiping. I gotta clean it with soap.
Right.
Because that mud is there. Because, like, the inside is, like, textured. And so, like, I'm trying to wipe it up, but it's in the crevices of it. And I'm like,
you need to shop
rotten, dirty raccoon.
They have those shampooers at places, too, you can get. You might need that.
So, like, even in the cracks of the window.
Because who knows what bacteria he brought in.
I know!
And your littles are going to be in there. So
yes!
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yes.
It's a funny story.
So I'm like,
and
if
when you're done
wasn't going to be late for work, this would be hilarious. I haven't even told Ruben yet, because I was so, like, frazzled, like, God damn it! I know it was my own fault. Like, because the windows were left down, and I can't believe I did that. I never do that. Except I did.
Except you did. Except for the time that you did.
Right.
And a raccoon got it.
I mean, I guess it could have been a skunk, but I don't think it was a skunk.
No,
I'm pretty sure the little muddy print he left right inside my car on the dash looked like a little hand with toenails.
His little hand was holding a little sucker, and he was in there going...
And he left little sticky all over it. It's like a toddler was in my car, covered with mud and sticky suckers.
I basically see raccoons as toddlers, so...
Yes, exactly.
They're little trash toddler.
Trash toddlers.
Forget trash pandas. They're trash toddlers.
I'm like driving to the work thinking, like, I better not have crud all over the back of first I'm like, that bastard better not still be in my car.
I know.
I'm like checking. I have a hatchback, so it's like, he's not in here. I don't see him. I turn my car, because my muffler is not connected to the engine, so my car is real loud. So I'm like, I'll just turn it on. If he's in there, he's going to leave real quick.
Yeah.
So he wasn't in there.
That's good. That reminds me of the time when I worked for my parents owned a gas station for 100 years, and I worked. My siblings, we all worked there. They turned into a convenience. First, it was a what is it called? Full service. You know, because my dad bought it in the 70s and ran it until, you know, he retired. And so I worked there in the convenience store. And at a certain time of the day, I always went out and checked the garbage to change the garbage cans. And the one garbage can right next to the door, people were going in and out all day long. I took the top off and looked in, and eyeballs were staring at me. And you might think, oh, that's a raccoon. Oh, no, it was a skunk.
Oh, geez.
I put the top on slowly. I walked into the gas station, and I said, Dad, there's a skunk in the garbage can. And he said, there's not a skunk in the garbage can. I said, there's a skunk. There's a face looking at me, and it's a skunk. He's like, you probably saw something in there, like a clump of something, and think it's a skunk. No, Dad is. So he walks out, looks at it, and he goes, there's a skunk in the garbage can. Yes, there is. So he went and got like one of the dollies, and we put like both of us very slowly pushing the thing onto the dolly. We roll the dolly over to the back of the station, and then they had these big long poles that you dipped the tanks with. You know, they're really long. Uh-huh. And we stood back, and he tipped it, and that thing went running, and he never sprayed once. But he was in there for God only knows how long, since the day before at least. Oh,
he wasn't dead.
I know, and he was scared probably, but he never sprayed.
How did he get in there?
Because the top was like a square open. So he could have crawled up inside it and got in and probably couldn't figure out how to get out.
Oh, because he couldn't climb up the edge.
Climb up the edge. So, yeah. But the poor little, there was eyeballs looking at me out of which was it scared the shit out of me. Because I was like, oh my God, there's a face looking at me. Oh my God, it's a skunk. Because I thought I'm going to get sprayed. Because I thought for sure we're going to get sprayed.
Baby skunks are the cutest things.
I think it was a younger skunk.
They're so freaking cute. And smelly, but very cute.
Yes, smelly.
And little raccoons are cute too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I love animals. They're so cute.
You don't want them in your car.
No.
Making a huge
unless I invite you, you don't need to come.
Well, I have kids, and I'm sure there's lots of crumbs he was snacking out.
Oh, I'm sure he is living his best life in there.
Yeah. Eating suckers, sitting in the booster seat.
And I'm thinking that poor skunk, people were throwing shit out on top of him. Just in there sitting. And people were like tossing their shit on him. Poor guy. So I'm like, hey!
It's a good thing that you knew he was in there instead of just grabbing the bag.
I know.
Pulling him out.
Because I probably would have got bit, sprayed, everything.
The whole gamut.
I've been rabies shots.
Oh my God. That's what I'm thinking of driving my car. I'm like, there might not be rabies drool all over inside this.
Yeah, like, how do you get rabies that way? I don't know. Better sanitize your body.
God.
I just want to say one more thing. Nothing makes me laugh. This never gets old to me. And you watch a movie and like the raccoon or whatever animal latches onto a person and they're like, they're like running around. Never gets old. It cracks me up. I don't want to see it in real life happening. You don't want people hurt, but in movies,
The Great Outdoors.
Yes.
Such a good movie.
Rich and I. That's one of Rich's favorite all-time movies.
It's John Candy. You can't go wrong.
You can't. So, but never gets old. Raccoons latching onto people's faces.
The squirrel in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
The squirrel!
Also fun.
Even the cat getting fried. Yeah.
That's funny.
Into the carpet was funny, but anyway.
Enough about animals. It wasn't a real cat.
Right. Yeah. No cat animals were harmed in the making of. I mean, maybe it was. That was
the 80s.
The 80s it could have been. Never mind. I just like to pretend that wasn't a thing. All right. Okay. So let's start. Are you ready to start?
There's a real cat carcass in there. They found a roadkill and they shoved it.
I've seen people do their Christmas decorations as the outline of the cat on the floor.
I've seen that too.
I think that's hysterical.
I think that is.
And I've seen people with Christmas decorations of Cousin Eddie entering the shitters full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shitters full.
I should do that this year.
His underwear and isn't it like a flannel shirt?
It's robe, a short robe, and his ear flapper hat.
It's so gross.
Cher was full.
And his skinny bikini underwear and tidy whities he had on. It's awful.
Oh, that's such a good movie. Classic. Okay. All right, ready?
You digress.
I digress.
We digress.
So, today I'm going to talk about the Count Saint-Germain. He was an 18th century aristocrat of unknown origins. No one knew where he came from. There are many theories about him. One, that he's a time traveler. Another, he's immortal or a vampire. And then some people say he was just a really good con artist. So I'm going to give you some history behind him, and you can decide what you think he is.
I'm intrigued.
Yes. Most accounts say that he was born in 1698, but others have said that he's been around since the time of Christ. That he attended the wedding at Cana when Jesus turned the water into wine. Best party ever.
Oh, yeah.
And he was present at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. And they even has been said that he was actually Lazarus in the Bible. The story of Lazarus in the Bible. I forget what. Was he crippled?
No, Lazarus was
leprosy?
risen from the dead.
Risen from the dead, that's it. I knew there was some
He was the original zombie.
I knew there. Yeah, he was the original zombie. So he was.
Don't come at me. All right.
Well,
because I said he was technically
he
was dead, and then he
rose again.
And walked around and talked. He was not.
Yeah. So he appeared in France basically out of nowhere in the 1740s, and he had a vast knowledge of science and history, and he spoke 12 languages, which, like Sanskrit. He was familiar with
Sanskrit.
That's what I said.
Yes.
And Chinese and like all these different languages, like he could speak them very
fluently.
Well. Yeah. He was a violin virtuoso who had a collection of, there was a famous collection of 6 arias that were published in 1747, and 3 of them were composed by him. He also wrote 42 arias on his own with Italian lyrics in 1757, and he had 17 violin solos he wrote and published in 1758. Very talented.
He's a genius.
Yeah. He's a man.
He's Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds.
Oh, there you go. I never
he
watched
didn't
it.
play the violin, but he like spoke a ton of languages and read, like, he had eidetic memory and
that's
books
cool.
really fast. He's also a fictional character.
Right. It was recorded that in 1710 that he appeared to be the age of 40. And when a fellow composer saw him 50 years later, he claimed he looked exactly the same. He once saw the Countess von Gregory in Paris, and she was so surprised to see him because she had thought she met him 50 years ago, but this man looked exactly the same. How could it be? So she said, I think must have been your father, Count Saint Germain. And he said, oh, no, ma'am. No, Countess. That was me. We met in Venice. And she was like, but that would make you 100. And he said, well, that's not impossible, is it? And that was his answer.
Well, that's really creepy.
Yeah. He never ate in public and would only drink a special tea that he made. And he would speak of ancient times and times in the past, like he was there. Like he just spoke so well about them. When people asked of his origins, he would give some bizarre answers, and he insinuated that he was hundreds of years old. He was very accomplished in alchemy, which was, transforming of matter, like controlling of nature, and and they particularly with the attempt to convert base metals into gold or to find a universal elixir. And it is said that he made a magical powder that when made into an elixir, that the person who drank it would become immortal. People believe the
Philosopher's Stone.
Yes. He said that he could provide the Philosopher's Stone. And people believed that he discovered the secret of alchemy. And it is rumored that he carried this vial of liquid elixir with him, which made him not age. He dressed very extravagantly. He loved jewels. He actually studied under a jeweler and was like very knowledgeable about jewels. And he wore them all over his clothing, his shoes, his coats, his everything. He'd have jewels on them.
Bedazzled.
He bedazzled the shit out of himself.
With the real jewels.
With real jewels.
Yeah, he's bedazzled.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally want a bedazzler.
I know, right?
I want a bedazzler.
We used to make fun of them all the time. Now I want it.
I want one so bad.
They have them for your hair. You ever seen that where you can just push this thing and it pops them in your hair? It's very cool. He was very charming, and he had the gift of gab. He was very easy to talk to. People really loved people were fascinated by him. He just would walk in and everyone was like interested in what he was up to. If you're bedazzled, people tend to look.
Yes.
He appeared obviously to be of wealth, but had no known bank accounts. However, it's said that his skills in alchemy, he could transmute base metals into gold. So really, does he need a bank account? He can pick up any kind of metal and turn it into gold.
An iron nail.
Yeah, exactly. He developed recipes that would eliminate wrinkles and dye your hair. And he could fix flaws in diamonds. And if you had a bunch of small diamonds, he said that he could put them together into one big one.
You just want your diamonds.
So he was very popular with royalty and nobility because they were like, you can get rid of my... First of all, you're going to make me young forever. And then you're going to get rid of my wrinkles. And I can dye my hair. And you're going to make me diamonds. Okay, you're our favorite. Sign me up. Yeah, you're our favorite.
Come with us.
Yeah, right? Voltaire, the 18th century philosopher and writer, called him the Wonder Man and said he is a man who knows everything and never dies. In 1740, he was in the court of King Louis XV of France and would perform secret missions for him in England. And then in the 1760s, he did something similar in, I don't know how to say this, is it Hague? Hague. There he met the famous Casanova. And the Casanova described Saint Germain as an extraordinary man who would say, the Saint Germain would say very, this is fact, I am 300 years old. He said that he possessed the mastery over nature and could melt diamonds. And some say that he had more lovers than Casanova. Like, he was more charming and that Casanova was like a little jealous of him. And then other places said he was celibate. So, I don't know which is right.
I doubt he was celibate.
Yeah, he's probably not. I mean, he can schmooze everyone. I don't think he's celibate.
Maybe he's gay.
Maybe he was.
That's why women are like, oh, he's celibate. Because he doesn't want me.
Yeah, he must. And maybe the women loved him. They were all around him, so people assumed he was a lover. Maybe he wasn't. In 1762, he went to Russia, and he helped Catherine the Great take over the throne. In 1774, he returned to France again, when Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were on the throne. And he spent a lot of time in the Palace of Versailles. And this is where people said they had a lot of ladies around him at the time. But again, bedazzled man walks in that's very charming.
Have you watched The Great?
Yes, I love it.
So good.
The part where he's doing the mother-in-law.
And the mother-in-law is freaking Scully from X-Files.
And the funny part is, yes. So that must have happened, like, because the TV show is Rain. Have you ever seen Rain? It's kind of stupid, but
I tried.
It's not good, but I watched all of it.
Yeah.
And I only did because, like, once you start watching something, I have to finish this.
I only got into a couple of episodes of it, and I'm just like...
The clothing alone.
Yes, and that's really what did it for me.
And, like, that's a 2001 prom dress. That's not for Regency era. Sorry to tell you.
No, it's supposed to be... That's...
What is it?
Tudor
era. They're all the same. I don't know. Which is Regency is
the 1810.
So that would be like Bridgerton.
Yes.
Okay. So Tudor would be Renaissance-y, but not quite.
Renaissance-y, yes.
Okay. Yeah, but that was a 2001 prom dress, not Tudor dresses.
And I started watching it, I'm like, oh, I can't do it.
No.
I just can't do it. And the same thing happened with that show Merlin.
Yeah, I tried that. I couldn't do it.
And it was the clothes. I'm like, that's not appropriate clothing for the time.
No, and I'm like, if you're gonna go out and do a period piece, you better get the clothes right.
Yeah, I'm like, those are like Halloween costumes.
Yes! I could find a better Halloween costume.
And I'm like, why? What?
Who are your costumers?
It offended me. And I'm like, even if you only had 2 dresses that were right.
Yeah.
Like,
just have them wear them the whole time. She probably only had 2 dresses.
Probably.
Oh, here we are worked up about nothing.
I know, about something stupid. But yeah,
So Catherine the Great.
Okay.
Mother-in-law fell out the window, right? In Rain, the king is having an affair, doing a girl, falls out the window. That must have happened all the time.
Must have.
I wonder.
It's also fictional.
And I always tell my husband, never doing it in a window.
Nope.
Don't want to fall out and die. Okay.
It's that whole danger zone.
Yeah. So, okay, Catherine the Great. He helped her get her throne. In 1774, he went to France, and Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were on the throne. He spent a lot of time in the Palace of Versailles. Versailles? I said it right. He warned them of the revolution that would be coming in 15 years, and he was correct about what he said. In 1779, he went to Hamburg, Germany, where he became friends with Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel. For 5 years, he lived as a guest in the prince's castle, which was, people didn't do that often, and he won him over. And that was in Eckernford in Germany. And this is where it was recorded that he died of pneumonia, February 28, 1784. They say on his deathbed he confessed that his real name was Francis Rákóczi II. He was a prince from Transylvania. And he had spent his early days in Siena University, which was one of the best places to be educated. So it explained a lot about his intelligence, but it kind of stimulated the whole idea that he might be a vampire from East Transylvania. Mm-hmm. So he's dead, right? February 28th, 1784. Nay, Margaret. Because he appears and is seen throughout decades. In 1785, which is a year later, he was seen in Germany with the pioneer of hypnosis, Mercer. And people say that Saint Germain actually gave Mesmer, the basic idea of hypnosis and human magnetism. The Freemasons have records showing that they chose Saint Germain as their representative for a convention in 1785, a year after he was supposedly dead. In 1789, the Countess de Adhamar, which is a French word that I'm not saying right, she was the lady in waiting to Queen Mary Lesniczka of 1764 to 68 and to Queen Marie Antoinette. So this countess was the lady in waiting for Marie Antoinette, basically. And she said,
lost her head then.
She said that she had a lengthy conversation with Saint Germain in 1789, and he told her France's immediate future, and it came true. She also claimed she saw him again in 1815 and then in 1821, and he had not aged.
Well, she didn't die then.
She didn't. The lady in waiting did not. In 1880 to 1900, his name became prominent again when members of the Theosophical? Yes, Theosophical. That's a lot of...
Theosophical.
That's a lot of things that my tongue can't do.
No.
Theosophical Society, which was a teaching about God and the world based on mystical insight. They claimed he was still alive and working towards the spiritual development of the West. In 1897, a famous French opera singer, Emma Calve, dedicated an autographed portrait to him. So I saw the portrait. It's very cool. And it's in French, but it has his name on it and like a message to him and then her signature.
Is it a portrait of her or him? It's
a portrait of her that she signed for him. So why would she be signing a dead man a portrait of her? You know what I mean?
Weird.
And this is like set 12 years later than he was supposedly dead. He's said to be connected to several secret societies like the Freemasons, the Society of Asiatic Brothers, the Knights of Light, the Illuminati, and the Order of Templars. The Freemasons credit him with inspiring our founding fathers to draft the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and it's said that they say he also designed the Great Seal of the U.S. So he had his fingers literally everywhere.
Well, but there was no photographs back then, so it could have just been some dude saying it was him.
Well, there were some people, even Casanova himself pretended to be him at one point, to try to win people over. So very well could be people all over the place pretending to be him because he was so fascinating to people, and he would go places and do all this stuff. Yeah, and like walk right away from it and go somewhere else. New Age religions see him as a Christ-like ascended master. They say he can teleport, levitate, walk through walls, and influence people telepathically. He is called the Violent Flame.
The Violent Femme?
No, the Violet. Not violent. I said violent. I didn't mean that. Not the Violent. The Violent Femmes! Yeah! He is called a Violet Flame, which is the highest frequency of spirituality. And he's represented by the color purple and amethyst.
Well, it's violet, so that makes sense.
Charles Webster Leadbeater claimed he'd met him in Rome in 1926. And Saint Germain showed him a robe that was owned by an emperor, a Roman emperor, like a old robe that would not have been around in 1926. Then there was Guy Ballard. This is where things get real weird. Guy Ballard is the founder of the I Am activity. Have you ever heard of I Am activity, Margaret?
No.
I'll tell you a little bit about it, and I'll tell you some other stuff that's really weird. Okay. Guy Ballard founded the I Am activity because he said that he met Saint Germain on Mount Shasta in California in August of 1930. He claimed he encountered a man who identified himself as Saint Germain, and his existence had...
His friends would be Saint Germain.
Oh, that's probably what it is.
It's just weird to say it like that.
I'm saying Saint Germain.
Saint Germain.
Saint Germain.
Germain.
Saint Germain. His existence had become an ascended master. Ascended masters are spiritually evolved individuals who formerly had incarnated in earthly bodies, but who no longer participate in the cycles of reincarnation. And they think that he would reincarnate several lifetimes back to Transylvania until one day he reached that other level where he didn't need to die and reincarnate anymore. I'm going to read this right from the website for the IM activity, which, yes, is still, there's a website for this.
Wow.
So this was 1930, and it's still going strong. Our organization is the guardian and protector of the authentic IM teachings, the sacred knowledge given to mankind by the ascended master Saint Germain through the messengers Mr. and Mrs. Ballard. We oversee and minister to the IM activity community in America and throughout the world. Ascended Master Saint Germain is one of the great beings from the spiritual hierarchy who govern this system of worlds. Members, those who study and apply to the IM teachings, join together in services at our temples and sanctuaries. So that's the IM activity. That's right from their website.
Okay.
So let's go to 1957. At age 18, while involved in the IM activities, a woman named Elizabeth Clare had an experience with Saint Germain that changed her life.
Oh, no.
She reportedly opened a book to a picture of Saint Germain and recognized him as the oldest friend she'd ever had. She knew him. She's talked to him. Like, he was her friend, and she didn't even know who he was. Shortly after that, she met a man named Mark Prophet, who was part of the IM activity.
That's an interesting last name to have, isn't it?
Yeah. And so she married him and became Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Together, they wrote more than 75 books on the teachings of the Ascended Masters, identifying Saint Germain as one of the three most prominent of them. The other two, El Moria, which I don't know who that is, and Jesus.
Okay.
They taught that Saint Germain is to the age of Aquarius what Jesus was to the age of Pisces.
I don't know what that is, though.
So it's a time in history. So, like, okay, so here's the age of Aquarius.
All I know is Age of Aquarius from Hair.
Is the dawning of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. Aquarius. We should have our own freaking musical.
Nobody would come.
No, but we would have fun with it.
Oh, on that note, Tony Harper's in Lowville has karaoke every other week on Thursdays, and it's tonight. Not that we can go tonight, but 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
We need to go.
I know we should. Well, I won't be here 2 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now, we should go.
We can't. It's only every other week.
4 weeks from now. Okay, so the age of Aquarius current 2,150 year cycle began in the mid-20th century. So it's cycles of time. A lot of this stuff I was reading about, my brain exploded because I was like, what
my brain hurts
are you talking
right
about? So apparently we're in the age of Aquarius right now. It started in the mid-20th century. So I'm thinking the 60s. So it makes sense that it was in, the song was created. So after Mark Prophet died, Elizabeth went on to start the Church Universal Triumphant, or CUT, which this attracted thousands of followers in the 1970s and early 80s, with Saint Germain as their central figure. She said Saint Germain was an immortal angel sent to warn the world of bad things to come. This was the cornerstone of her church, and she claimed to be in constant contact with him. Again, she saw his picture and said they've been friends her whole life.
But she didn't know.
She didn't know that's who he was.
Right.
In 1986, Elizabeth Prophet moved CUT's headquarters from California to a 28,000-acre ranch in Gardiner, Montana. In 1990, after Prophet predicted an imminent nuclear attack, because they're kind of riding the coattails of, the whole Russia nuclear bomb shit of the 80s, She went caused a whole apocalyptic frenzy with her people, her followers.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's always a frenzy.
They stockpiled weapons and food and built fallout shelters. 4,000 cut fowlers flooded onto the ranch. This obviously alarmed the federal government that there were these people running into bunkers with weapons. Thousands of them. So they withdrew the tax exempt status, which freaked them out in return. And they were like, okay, we'll get rid of our guns if you give us back our tax exempt status. And they did, and then everything was fine. And as time went on, this movement of the cut, and her and her husband also started a thing called the Summit Lighthouse Foundation, which Cut was under, the church was under, and which both the Summit Lighthouse Foundation has a website, and it's still a thing today. And Elizabeth Prophet's websites and her face are everywhere, and there's 75 books are available on there to purchase, and it's crazy. She ended up dying in 2009. In 1972, a man proclaimed...
Aren't they supposed to be immortal?
No, she's not. She was just a messenger from him.
Okay.
And because her husband had already died too. So, in 1972, a man proclaimed on French TV that he was the Count Saint-Germain. He proved it by turning lead into gold on a camp stove on camera. Because remember, he was an alchemist who could turn basic metals into gold. This man committed suicide in 1982, so I guess he wasn't immortal, which is sad, but I don't think that was him. Just saying. There's a lot of people base their religions off him. In our 20th century, in our lifetime, there was religions based off Saint Germain.
Yeah.
And he, the Count, and he, he's a real person. That really was a person. But the thing is, it was really hard researching this because, yes, he's a real person, but everything was so
convoluted.
Yeah, and it's just like stories of Jesus seem exaggerated. I mean, whatever your belief is.
And then you have the Mormons have their own stories.
Yeah, and how everyone has a different. That's what it was like looking up this stuff. According to several of the 20th century New Age groups, Saint Germain was embodied as a fowling people. So they're saying that he's been around for a long time, and he wasn't always called Count Saint Germain.
He's had different names.
Yes. He was the ruler of the Golden Age civilization in the area of the Sahara Desert 70,000 years ago. He was the high priest of Atlantis 13,000 years ago, serving as the order of Lord
he didn't do well
Zadkiel and the Temple of Purification located near where the island of Cuba is now. The prophet Samuel, who served as a prophet priest and the last greatest of the Hebrew judges. He was Hesiod, the Greek poet, whose writings served as a major source of knowledge for Greek mythology and cosmology. Plato, the greatest philosopher of Athens. Saint Joseph of Nazarene, yes, the husband of Mary and Jesus' stepdaddy, in the 1st century. So he was there at the time of Christ. Saint Alban, late 3rd or early 4th century, the first British martyr. Proclus, 410 to 485 C, Common Era Athens, the last major Greek Neoplatonic philosopher. Merlin, speaking of which, 5th or 6th century Britain, magician and counselor of King Arthur's Camelot, who inspired the establishment of the Order of the Knights and the Round Table. Roger Bacon, England, forerunner of the modern science, renowned for his exclusive investigations into alchemy, optics, mathematics, and languages. There's still more, don't worry.
Oh, God.
Organizer of various secret societies in Germany in the late 14th and early 15th centuries, where he operated as a legendary Christian Rosencreuz. I can't say
Rosencreuz?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard of that name.
Yes, so he was him. He was Christopher Columbus.
Oh, really?
Which, you're an asshole.
For sure.
He was Francis Bacon.
Also a great explorer.
Yeah, he was a philosopher, statesman, essayist, and literary master and author of Shakespearean plays, a father of an inductive science and herald of scientific revolution.
Sir Francis Bacon.
Not Kevin Bacon.
Sir Francis.
But I bet there's 6 degrees to him.
I bet he's got his hand in there somehow.
Yeah. So, even if you don't believe in the magic or him being immortal, he did sort of find the elixir to eternal life, though, right?
Yeah, because people are still talking about him. So.
Right. So
that's
the myth surrounding him and the legend surrounding him is living forever. There's friggin', I don't want to say mean things about people, crazy religions invented.
You can say crazy religions to me. I'm not offended.
Okay. Well, I don't want to offend our listeners, but I think they'll think they're crazy.
If people practice this crazy religion, they wouldn't be listening to us.
They wouldn't be listening to us. She apparently, that Elizabeth prophet, when she started out in like doing things, she was like a secretary for the Church of Scientology. So that tells you a little bit. Which basically is basically the same idea.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's really is. Just and then when you were talking about this, I'm like, is this the basis of? Is this like
no
L. Ron Hubbard shit?
No, but it might as well be.
Been. Maybe
it was
read
just
about him.
Some people that. But and the cool thing is, I'm like, you remember you said when I told you I was doing this, and you're like, I know that name. He's a character in Outlander.
I know.
Oh, so after you figured it out. He's a character in Outlander. He also is in the Marvel universe. He's a character in the Netflix's Castlevania. And there was a list of books written, like people written fiction about him, as either being a time traveler, either being a mortal person, a god, vampire. Like there was all these different things. And apparently, I don't know if this is true or if this is a story legend or whatever. I only found one thing, but I might do some more for a, what's that thing called we do? Well, people support us when we do
a Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. So there was a Jacques Saint Germain that was in New Orleans at one point that he wouldn't eat, and he'd have big social events, but he didn't eat during them. He said that he was related to the Count Saint Germain. He said that it said that a woman was screaming from his balcony, and the cops came, and the knock on the door startled him, and she was able to escape, but he had bit her neck. And then when we went in, there was blood everywhere and all over the sheets. And there was a lot of like we're in New Orleans, first of all. So yeah, Vampire City.
We have the Anne Rice gene.
Yes.
So it's like the millennials have their Twilight.
Yeah.
We're freaking Gen X and we have Anne Rice.
We have Anne Rice.
For crying out loud. And I cannot wait for that show that's supposed to be coming
out. Oh my God. Cannot wait.
Cannot wait.
But so like I'm gonna probably do a bonus episode for our Patreon on the Jacques Saint Germain and like the story behind that, and if it's legend or fact or what is. So just like this one, there's a lot of there's factual things in here, but there's also sensationalized, exaggerated legend. Like he was a mysterious person, so people filled in the blanks.
Right.
Basically is what was happening. So just like with any legend, it's a lot of things are based off truth, but also people make up their own shit.
Yeah. Everything has its own lore. Yeah. And I love saying the word lore because I watch a lot of Supernatural. And
lore.
Look up the lore. I'm like, I love lore.
I think I'm going to do episode on like those crazy religions based off him at some point too.
That would
because
be cool.
That stuff blows my mind that people thought that they had to go hide in bunkers because she said so. That lady, I just on her, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, I might do an episode on her.
You should.
But that's the story of, so what do you think, Margaret?
I don't know. It's mysterious. I think he's probably a big con man. And I think other people kind of fed off that too. Like they're like taking his like cult of personality and just banking on that. Because I mean at the time there's no background checks. There's no photographs. So if you had dark hair and dark eyes and you were attractive, you could say, oh yeah, I'm Count Saint-Germain. And who's going to know the difference? They just know, they have a painting of him. And I mean, paintings look like people, but they could look like a lot of people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So.
and especially back then, they never really looked like the person anyway. Really,
because they were done with them.
They wanted
the
rose-colored glasses.
They want to get paid, so
they're making them look good.
They're not going to give you that huge wart on your face.
Right.
They're going to make it look like a little mole instead of a gigantic wart.
Exactly. Just like when we take our selfies, we make sure we have good angles.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not stupid. But I think that, and also like you said, like when people were pretending to be him, people pretended to be him, and it became like a thing because he was so mysterious and no one saw him. So if you were in, say, Germany and another person was in Russia, how would you know if he wasn't in both places? You wouldn't know. There weren't cell phones.
Right.
They weren't sending a picture of him to their friend in Germany from Russia saying, hey, he's here. No, he's here. So it could very well have been several people being him. And there's other Saint Germains out there that sometimes he gets confused with.
Especially you have one charismatic guy who says, I'm over 300 years old and I was there for the birth of Christ. And, and he tells that, and then he lives a long time and he looks good. And then all of a sudden some guy knows he's dead. He's like, well, I think I'm just going to pretend to be him too. And he's just like banking on his like cred, his street cred, basically. He's like, I'm going to.
And like the fact that people saw him when he must have looked like if Saint Germain was the same guy, either it was his dad really that they saw 50 years ago and he's pretending to be the same person, or that guy died and some other one kind of looked like him and decided to be him because these people recognized him. But the only thing is,
if you met a guy for one night 10 years ago and you saw him again, you'd be like, I think he looks
50
familiar.
Years ago, Margaret.
Right. I mean, so obviously she's 50 years older than
she probably can't see very well.
Right. And I mean, even if he looked somewhat like him, oh my God, it's him because she's old.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, the only thing you can't fake is being talented and knowledgeable. Like you can't play the violin unless you know how to play the violin.
Right. But I mean, like, if you get one guy's a genius and he's like, another guy is like, well, I'm smart and I can do this too. And, especially like educated men who don't have the money or the power they want, they're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
They're smart enough.
Yeah. Big conmen. It's fascinating. I thought it was really cool.
It is cool.
That's the story.
Maybe he's a vampire.
I want to think that he's an immortal vampire. I don't want to, these weird religions, I don't want no part of that. But the vampire thing, I'm all for it.
Heck
he's immortal somehow. I like it. And like that, like going on that whole Vampire Diaries side where the jewels help him stay alive.
Like the lapis.
Yeah.
You remember reading those books when we were kids?
Oh my God, I loved them.
That was in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s when those books first came out. And
we read those before we read Anne Rice.
Yep, and Laureate's bookstore in the mall.
Oh God, Laureate.
I remember when those books came out waiting, like it said, coming in September, and because they give you the first chapter of the next book at the end of the book, and I remember going in there, like, do you have the next one of these? Like, I need it. And I read those books like 15 times. And I gave them to you to read. And it was like, they were well worn.
Yeah.
And the thing now is like, the show that came out was a lot different. And obviously...
I love the show, though.
But Elena was supposed to be blonde.
I hate Elena, first of all, in the show. Never liked her, but everything else I love. If she was never in it would be great.
I thought they got Damon and
Stefan.
I thought those guys did a good job. They looked pretty like how you think of them.
And Damon, my God. He's beautiful.
I remember, do you remember when we went and met Anne Rice?
Yes!
And I gave her a lapis stone.
That's right.
Because I'm a big dork. It wasn't even her books.
It wasn't even her books. In our head, everything was one at that time.
I know. Vampires are vampires are vampires. Yeah. Oh, there's lore about vampires and lapis lazuli. And her books had been out, but we were young.
We were too young to read.
Yeah, and then once I discovered her books, I was like, oh, this is it.
And then we saw the movie. And my God, Brad Pitt was beautiful.
He was beautiful in that.
I hate Tom Cruise, but
he did good. He was good. And you know what's funny? I actually liked Tom Cruise back then, and when they said he was playing Lestat, I was very upset because I'm like, no,
right? Because he didn't fit
He did not fit what Lestat was supposed to look like, and I'm like, he's supposed to be very tall. Then I was thinking David Bowie would have been a perfect Lestat. Yeah. Hell yeah, perfect. From the description, he's a rocker. You know what I mean? He's like glam rocker, and he had like the hair, and it was just like, no. And I'm like...
But he did do well.
He did do well. I was really, really surprise.
I'll give him credit, even though I can't stand him.
I can't stand him either. A lot of that
not
is
watch any new movie with him in it.
I won't either
because he doesn't need it. I'm not giving him more money to give to the Church of Scientology. I'm sorry, no.
Nope. And
I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy when I stand there, but I am not doing it.
I've watched the Leah Remini Scientology
thing,
and so I'm like, they suck.
I love Leah Remini.
So
I love her so much. She's fantastic. And like poor Katie Holmes got like brainwashed and sucked in, and the poor girl is like traumatized to this day, like PTSD from that shit.
And she was when she was giving birth, she wasn't allowed to make any noise because you could give the baby engrams before they're born. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? She's pushing a human out of herself.
She
let the girl
let
scream.
Her do whatever she wants. And the fact that they don't they don't believe in traditional medical stuff, but he bought a friggin' ultrasound machine to have his house so he could look at his baby whenever he wanted. That is not good for your baby, you idiot. What? You don't think that's causing problems? Her making noise. Oh no, but I can expose my child to ultrasonic waves. Oh my god, I'm over here doing this motion. Like I'm doing some kind of giant ultrasound. What am I doing? I get real worked up about the Tom Cruise thing. I get real mad about him.
I know, and he's just so wacky. I was talking about this recently. I recently just watched, we're going off on a tangent again.
Yeah, sorry.
I watched Under the Banner of Heaven. It has Andrew Garfield in it. He's so cute.
Oh, I love Andrew Garfield. He's adorable.
Too. And that movie was like, threw me for a loop. And of course, because I watched that, I had to go watch Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey.
Well, I heard that's rough.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I heard that's rough to watch.
It's terrible. And I know, as I've watched a lot of true crime, they talk about Warren Jeffs. And
right.
I've watched the show Escaping Polygamy, which is about that, and they talk about him there. To listen to this man talk, he just looks and sounds like a freaking pedophile.
Ugh.
His voice is horrible. And his face, you just see him and you want to smash his face. I'm like, this guy is disgusting. Ugh. It's disgusting. And it's like, he's not a religious prophet. Even though he tells you he is, does not mean he is.
No, well, come on.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Horrible.
Speaking of disgusting and like horrible things, we're both big Morbid podcast fans, and we're in the Morbid podcast fan group, and I've seen this before, but it popped up again today of that person. It's a screenshot. They posted a screenshot in the group that someone had gotten a tattoo of Ted Bundy's bite marks on them with his signature Ted next to it.
I hate that.
That is just, what the is wrong with you? Why are we romanticizing him?
Like, why would you do that when he did that to some woman he killed?
Yeah.
Like, he killed her. And
her family is child.
Her family is still alive.
Yes.
How do you think they feel about it?
And how can you romanticize a serial killer? I don't get it. Like, I romanticize vampires, but they're not real.
Right.
They didn't really do anything to anyone.
Yeah. And it's really rough. Like, it
makes me sick to my stomach. And I was like, why would you, how disrespectful to like you said, the families who are alive and can, like, you're posting this on the internet.
What the hell? It's like, you have a mental problem that you need to seek help for.
Well, you look at all these women that
and they're like, it's no different than all of you people listening to podcasts about true crime. It's totally not the same thing. Not. I'm learning about
I'm fascinated by the psychology part of it.
Right. It's like, I feel for the victims.
There's empathy.
I don't feel like I want to go out and get a tattoo.
I don't want to
glorifying.
I don't want to bang the serial killer.
No.
Never feel like I want to bang the serial killer.
Yeah, it's like, by getting that tattoo, you're like a fangirl of a serial killer.
You're gross.
It's gross.
Get better heroes.
Yes.
Friends. All right. I got real mad a couple times already.
I feel the same.
It's all about that crazy religion led us down this path. Because we talked about weird religions and it got us going on weird people. Mm-hmm. Cult following kind of stuff, which some cult followings are fantastic. You know, like if you're a Labyrinth
or Willow,
Willow,
most favorite movie ever. And my husband on Father's Day, he wanted to watch something with the kids. He put that on there. I'm like, this is a wonderful Father's Day movie.
God,
and I still know all the words, and it drives.
We used to.
Nobody wants to watch that movie with me because I can recite it along with the movie because I've seen it that many times.
Well. The thing that is funny is that...
And The Princess Bride, I can do that too.
I love The
Me too. Carrie Ellis.
There's not, there's something about movies made then that you can't capture that. And the closest...
I still am in love with Mandy Patinkin.
Oh my God. Have you watched his TikTok?
I love him. He's so
The
much
more
fun.
I see his TikToks, him and his wife are the cutest people. Everything they say aligns with what I believe in, and I love them, and I just want to hang out with them and be their friend.
I know, my God. That's one of the reasons why I started watching Criminal Minds, because he was in it.
I love him.
And then he wasn't in it, and it made me sad.
Oh, that's right, he was in that. I was going to watch it because he was.
First couple seasons.
But I can't if he's not in it.
Yeah, but the first couple seasons are good, and then it starts to kind of...
get weird. Dumb.
I've been trying to watch them all, and I've gotten to the point... Like, I watched it when it was on TV, up until the last, 3 seasons, and I stopped. Once, Hotch left, and then that next season, I watched it was on TV, and then I just stopped watching it, I just kind of let it build up on the DVR and then slowly disappear. I just couldn't anymore, because it's so ridiculous. And I started binge watching it, and I've also had to stop and take a break. I'm at the same point where I was when I was watching on TV. I'm like, I still can't get past this. And it's just the same, it's just it gets to a point where, in the show, when they're delivering the profile, and it's it shows them all standing in a line at the front of, the police station, talking to the police officers, and they each go in a they each take a turn and talk about, and he's going to be 40 years old and he's blah, 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 blah. Right. And the next one, did you rehearse this? Do you have this written down? Because this is what it feels like. It's just so ridiculous. And you don't know, it's not as bad unless you binge watch it. You see it every episode. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Why would they do that? They wouldn't each take a sentence. How would they know who's going to go next?
I know. And how would you know what to say? It's
so annoying. I'm it'd be one person telling them.
Right.
Not all of them standing up there educating
taking turns.
Them. Educate them on what this serial
so funny.
Yeah, that's a stupid tangent to go on. We're so off the rails.
Yeah. I guess we can wrap things up.
I guess so.
Guess what you can save the date for?
AnchorCon! Woohoo! August 20th and 21st.
Yeah, I reached out to find out what day. I haven't got anything back yet to find out which day they thought we would be do our recording live. Mm-hmm. But get your tickets for the whole weekend if you want, and follow AnchorCon so you can see who is going to be there and what's happening. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram, The Cousins Weird, because for one, you can never miss an episode from us because they post right to Facebook, and you can share to your friends from there, which is the best way to support us. And two, you can follow and see what the AcreCon stuff is.
You can send us an email at thecousinsweird@gmail.com.
And you can support us because we're on Patreon now, which I couldn't remember the name of it earlier, but we're Patreoners. And it's patreon.com/thecousinsweird. And for $1 a month, you become a free friend, and you get a free sticker and bonus episodes, which are fun, and they kind of base off of some of the stuff we've already done, so we expand upon that.
Or if we find out new information, and we're like, ooh, I wish I'd known this then, I'll just make a new podcast. Yeah.
And you'll only get to hear it on your bonus episodes if you're a Patreon person with us. And then for $5 a month, you become a Tailboat Trender, and you get a free sticker, a free yearly gift, bonus episodes, ad-free episodes, and then a monthly chat with us. It's live. We can chill and hang out, talk.
Yeah.
This tangents we've been on, that's probably what it'll be. So if you enjoyed that, you're going to want to support us. If you didn't, you probably won't ever listen to us again anyway. Because it happens sometimes.
That's basically the premise of this.
Yeah.
Kyle and I get together, we talk about weird shit,
and it goes on to another thing, then another thing.
And it goes on to different weird shit.
And then we're like, how did we get here? We don't know.
About ranting about Tom Cruise. Yeah, now we're going to get tons of hate mail from Scientology.
Bring it on. I'm going to call Leah Remini, and she's going to back us up.
And then we'll get famous.
That's right. So please, I want to get famous off it. Tom Cruise is going to send us hate mail. So that's that. And make sure you share us on your social medias because that really helps us. And we want you to rate us on your platforms because that puts us out there into the universe, the podcast universe.
Yes. And we appreciate anything. Any little thing you could do is very much appreciated.
Yeah, we appreciate just listening. We love it. We love you.
Get our views up. Share our podcast. Just reach out to us. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we want to know what you think.
For sure.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Stay freaky.
Bye.
Bye.